Greetings, greetings, greetings. Hey, how y'all doing? This is a Sunday edition of Rootwork coming to you on Black Power Media. Coming to you on a Sunday. I was, I don't remember, did I schedule this show for Friday? May have. And then I scheduled it for Saturday, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy my Saturday. I'm going to schedule this show on a Sunday, a lazy Sunday afternoon for all of you heathens and pagans who ain't had no church to go to or didn't go to no church. I wanted to change up just a wee of a tad bit. I'm still going to do analysis and interviews when and where I can, but today I hadn't seen you guys in a while, and I was looking around for a show idea. I'm not going to use that word content. I've decided I am not a content creator. But I was looking around for a show idea, and I said, well, maybe I can recycle something. So April is National Poetry Month. And 4 years ago, that seems like a lifetime. 4 years ago, during the lockdown of 2020, some friends of mine, acquaintances, colleagues of mine, peeps of mine, in order to break through the monotony, would read on Facebook. They would read whole chapters of books. I started to, but stopped because you know how that can go. But one thing I did do was a couple of nights, there were times when I read some poetry. Now, I am not a poet, and I know it. I am not a spoken word artist. I am a writer. I am a journalist. But I know what I like. When I hear something that stirs me or that moves me, you know, I know what I like. And so that's what I shared about 4 years ago. And so I was able to dig out um, those Facebook lives, and I thought I would share them here on Rootwork on Black Power Media. So you know how I go with me and this here technology. I ain't even okay. Yeah, I do have it at the bottom. Cash App, Venmo, Rootworker. For those who are so inclined, want to make sure that that's at the bottom. But overall, Black Power Media. If you have not subscribed, if you have not liked, if you have not watched, if you have not shared the videos before on my personal Rootwork channel and here on Black Power Media, please do so. Please like, please subscribe, please share on your various social media platforms. We greatly appreciate that. Please become a sustainer. So many folks, we appreciate all 30, however many thousand of y'all, and it continues to climb, who subscribe to Black Power Media. We greatly, greatly appreciate y'all. Peace, Breeze. How are you, M Breeze? So let me stop talking so much because I only wanted to be here an hour today. And Ear Doctor gonna come in for y'all later on with his vibes. But so again, giving you the context, these are some videos from about 4 years ago, some Facebook lives that I did regarding poetry reading during the lockdown, just sharing. It's not my poetry. I'm reading other people's poetry. And let me tell you briefly, I think what I'll do is I'll go into these individuals later. But right now, we've got pieces that I have read from Scot-Heron, Carolyn Rogers, Lucille Clifton, Etheridge Knight, Pat Parker, Warsan Shire, Nur Abdul Khayyam, who some people know as Albert Washington, formerly of the New York Three, member of the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, Assata Shakur, and there might be another one or two people in here. Um, I've forgotten. I don't know. But let's get this together right now. Oh. And as per usual, it wouldn't be a root work. It wouldn't be a root work if there wasn't some malfunction. Whew, that's sad. But hey, what can I say? Sad but true. Unfortunately, true. Now let's see if I can. No. Very interesting. Very interesting. Because, I did practice this before. Hold on one second. Let me see.
Tonight, I'm not sure.
Hold on. I did. I promise you I did. I promise I did. And for some reason, it's not here. There they go. Okay, so Gil Scot-Heron, Lucille Clifton, Carolyn Rogers, Etheridge Knight, Pat Parker, Warsan Shire, Nur Abdul Khayyam, formerly Albert Washington, Assata Shakur, and I may have left someone out. These pieces are not in any particular order. Again, this is coming from Facebook from a few years ago. Let's get into it and talk about it in a few.
Are coming from resistance fighters. Albert Nur Washington was a member of the Black Panther Party and a member of the Black Liberation Army, along with Herman Bell and Anthony Washington, who is now known as Jalil Muntaqim. They made up what is known as the New York Three members of the Black Liberation Army who were imprisoned allegedly for the murder of police officers in New York. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, it looked like it cut out for a moment. Very, very short poem, only 4 lines by Albert Nur Washington. And it's called By Way of Introduction. To the oppressed, I am the angel of deliverance. To the oppressor, I am the angel of destruction. So who I am depends on who you are. That's By Way of Introduction by Albert Nur Washington. Again, Albert Nur Washington was one of those members of the Black Liberation Army. And as we know, the Black Liberation Army members, such as Assata Shakur, Geronimo Jijaga, Daruba Ben Wahad, all of these people have been labeled as domestic terrorists. But are they really terrorists? That depends on who you are. And that's what Albert Nur Washington was talking about. Speaking of Assata Shakur, when it comes to resistance, Assata, hey Jose, Assata Shakur is what we call a bright, shining example of resistance to the oppression carried on in the United States. Not only did she fight against it as a Panther, as a member of the Black Liberation Army, she escaped from prison with the help of her comrades in 1979, and she has remained free in revolutionary Cuba over 40 years now. I believe last year was the 40th anniversary, 2019. Almost 50 years that she has been free in Cuba. And we count that as most definitely one of our greatest examples for resistance and resilience. This is a poem written by Assata Shakur that's contained in her autobiography, Assata, and it's called The Tradition. Carry it on now, carry it on. Carry it on now, carry it on. Carry on the tradition. There were Black people since the childhood of time who carried it on. In Ghana and Mali and Timbuktu, we carried it on the tradition. We hid in the bush when the slave masters came, holding spear, and when the moment was ripe, leaped out and lanced the lifeblood of our would-be masters. We carried it on. On slave ships, hurling ourselves into oceans, slitting the throats of our captors, we took their whips and their ships. Blood flowed in the Atlantic, and it wasn't all ours. We carried it on. Fed Missy arsenic apple pies, stole axes from the shed, went and chopped off Massa's head. We ran, we fought, we organized a railroad, an underground. We carried it on. In newspapers, in meetings, in arguments and street fights, we carried it on. In tales told to children, in chants and cantatas, in poems and blues songs, and saxophone screams, we carried it on. On soapboxes and picket lines, welfare lines, unemployment lines, our lives on the line, we carried it on. In sit-ins and pray-ins and march-ins and die-ins, we carried it on. On cold Missouri midnights, pitting shotguns against lynch mobs, on burning Brooklyn streets, pitting rocks against rifles, we carried it on. Against water hoses and bulldogs, against nightsticks and bullets, against tanks and tear gas, needles and nooses, bombs and birth control, we carried it on. In Selma and San Juan, Mozambique and Mississippi, in Brazil and in Boston, we carried it on. Through the lies and the sellouts, the mistakes and the madness, through pain and hunger and frustration, we carried it on. Carried on the tradition, carried a strong tradition, carried a proud tradition, carried a Black tradition. Carry it on. Pass it down to the children. Pass it down. Carry it on. Carry it on now. Carry it on to freedom. That poem is called The Tradition by Assata Shakur, and that's found in her autobiography, Assata. Now, I know this is Facebook Live. I'm keeping my word to do the poetry and praise of poetry and prose for National Poetry Month. I've got one more poem, at least one more I want to do right now, but I really need a drink of water. So I'm going to get a drink of water while y'all look at the ceiling real quick, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, I didn't really go over these videos. I just identified which ones were which. So, yeah.
Yeah, so until I can figure out the technology better.
4 years later.
Apologize, I had to do it like that. Stop laughing, Jose. Okay, and now for this, what do you call it, this set? I got two more poems I want to do, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do them as part of this set or separately. Let's just see how the spirit flows. This is going to be recorded. I'm going to put it on YouTube, so you'll be able to go back and see it. You ain't got to tune in right now. You ain't missing nothing. You can come back later tonight. I didn't want it to be too long, but since I'm going to put it up and you can access it at any time, I might as well do all 5 poems now. So this poem that I'm about to do, the last poem I did was Assata Shakur's poem. This is a poem for Assata Shakur. It's written by a brother in Atlanta, Georgia, by the name of Makungu Akinyela. And the title of this poem is Whirlwind. You don't know where to find me, to lock me up and bind me. You look where you thought I might have been. I live in the eyes of the people, the hearts and minds of the people. You look for me in the alleys, and I ride the wind. No matter how you treat me, lock me up and beat me, I'm determined to one day break free. I live in the eyes of the people, the hearts and minds of the people. You look for me in the streets, and I'm in the breeze. I'm a panther, a phantom, a soldier in worker's dress. I'll rise up in the east and then strike you from the west. I'm a cobra, a tiger, an urban freedom fighter. I'm certainly not where you thought I might have been. I live in the eyes of the people, the hearts and minds of the people. I'm certainly not where you thought I might have been. I know you're going to look for me. So if you look for me in the whirlwind. That's for Assata Shakur by Makungu Akinyela, and it's entitled Whirlwind. Very interesting that he chose these words for this sister. It's believed she is a daughter of Oya, and I think that was a most fitting poem for her. Now, this next poem, I'm just gonna go ahead on and do it, and we're gonna do the thing, as we say. I'm gonna go ahead on and I'm gonna read this poem, and I don't know if this poem speaks to resilience or not, but I'll give you the background on it. I was talking with one of my mentors. Her name is Phyllis Jackson. She was a member of the Central Committee of the Black Panther Party. This was about, at minimum, 10 years ago. Phyllis would come to the trial every day of the man who murdered Oscar Grant. And I'm not sure how we had gotten on this subject, but we were talking about Black people pleading insanity, or how come more Black people don't plead insanity. I'm not sure how we got on. I'm not sure. But along those lines, she asked me if I had ever heard of this poem called One Thanksgiving Day by Pat Parker. Now, I had heard Pat Parker's name before, but I had never heard this poem. And when I read it, I was like, oh, okay, it's like that. So I'm going to read this poem as part of this. And of course, you can either take it or leave it. But if you take it, you let me know where you think it fits in terms of resilience and resistance. This is One Thanksgiving Day by Pat Parker. One Thanksgiving Day, Priscilla Ford got into her Lincoln Continental, drove to Virginia Street in downtown Reno, and ran over 30 people. 6 of them died. One Thanksgiving Day, Priscilla Ford got into her Lincoln Continental, drove to Virginia Street in downtown Reno, and ran over 30 people. 6 of them died. Priscilla, who did you see? What face from your past? Was it the waitress who waited to wait on you? Was it the clerk who tried to sell you only the brightest colored clothes? Was it your child's teacher who tried to teach her that she was slow? Was it the security guard at the bank who guarded you from the bank's money with his eyes? One Thanksgiving Day, Priscilla Ford got into her Lincoln Continental, drove to Virginia Street in downtown Reno, and ran over 30 people. 6 of them died. Screams filled the street. Panic ran through the crowd like a losing streak at the blackjack tables, and the state of Nevada was stunned. A tired, middle-aged Black woman was not thankful that day. Not thankful for her job wrapping gifts at Macy's. Not thankful for the state taking custody of her child. She was not thankful for her Lincoln Continental. Priscilla Ford got into her Lincoln Continental and hurled through the streets of Reno. The killer made in Motown factories swept down on tourists looking to make a big hit. Hit by a navy blue steel bludgeon, screams dying beneath its wheels, and the state of Nevada was angry. She went to trial. Insanity, her lawyers pled. She was crazy with anger. She was crazy with fear. She was crazy with defeat. She was crazy with isolation. No sane person kills strangers with their cars. Priscilla Ford said, yes, I drove my car into the whiteness of Nevada streets. She would say nothing more, and the state of Nevada was frightened. If Priscilla Ford could do it, who else? How many Black faces that emptied garbage, waited tables, bagged groceries, wrapped presents were capable? Reaction was swift. One entrepreneur printed a card. It said, Happy Thanksgiving, with a picture of Priscilla on its front. Inside it said, Sorry I missed you. Priscilla Ford got into her Lincoln Continental, drove to Virginia Street in downtown Reno, and ran over 30 people. 6 of them died, and the state of Nevada was vindictive. You cannot be insane. To be enraged is not insane. To be filled with hatred is not insane. To lash out at whiteness is not insane. It is being a nigger. It is being your place in life. Priscilla Ford got into her Lincoln Continental, drove to Virginia Street in downtown Reno, and ran over 30 people. 6 of them died. And now Priscilla Ford will die. The state of Nevada has judged that it is not crazy for black folks to kill white folks with their cars. Priscilla Ford will be the second woman executed in Nevada's history. It's her highest finish in life. That's One Thanksgiving Day by Pat Parker. Now, when Priscilla Ford did this was back in the early 70s. It may have been 1974. And to my knowledge, I don't think Priscilla Ford was executed. She died in prison. But she was most definitely locked up, and she was sentenced to death. But I think before they executed her, she passed away. So that's One Thanksgiving Day by Pat Parker. And again, you let me know where you think that fits in terms of resilience and resistance. I stated last week that I was doing poems that kind of got to me, that kind of spoke to me. And that was one of them. This next poem, this last poem that I'm going to do, this one spoke to me also. Now, this is by a poem by a brother by the name of Etheridge Knight. I believe he wrote this in the late 60s or early 70s. I'm not sure. But you can find this book in his 1986 book, The Essential Etheridge Knight. And this is called On the Idea. I think I'm going to need story hour with time to see. So this right now is in praise of prose and poetry. So this is called On the Idea of Ancestry by Etheridge Knight. I think y'all excuse me, I'm low budget technology. Feel my voice getting raspy again. Need to take a swig real quick. And that is water. In case you were wondering, if I show that's water. It ain't gin. It ain't Seagram's. Nope. On the Idea of Ancestry by Etheridge Knight. Taped to the wall of my cell are 47 pictures, 47 black faces. My father, mother, grandmothers, one dead, grandfathers, both dead, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, cousins, first and second, nieces and nephews. They stare across the space at me, sprawling on my bunk. I know their dark eyes. They know mine. I know their style. They know mine. I am all of them. They are all of me. They are farmers. I am a thief. I am me. They are thee. I have at one time or another been in love with my mother, one grandmother, 2 sisters, 2 aunts, 1 went to the asylum, and 5 cousins. I am now in love with a 7-year-old niece. She sends me letters in large block print, and her picture is the only one that smiles at me. I have the same name as one grandfather, 3 cousins, 3 nephews, and 1 uncle. The uncle disappeared when he was 15. Just took off and caught a freight, they say. He's discussed each year, Facebook tripping. He's discussed each year when the family has a reunion. He causes uneasiness in the clan. He is an empty space. My father's mother, who is 93 and who keeps the family Bible with everybody's birth dates and death dates in it, always mentions him. There is no place in her Bible for whereabouts unknown. Each fall, the graves of my grandfathers call me. The brown hills and red gullies of Mississippi send out their electric messages, galvanizing my genes. Last year, like a salmon quitting the cold ocean, leaping and bucking up his birth stream, I hitchhiked my way from L.A. with 16 caps in my pocket and a monkey on my back. And I almost kicked it with the kinfolks. I walked barefooted in my grandmother's backyard. I smelled the old land in the woods. I sipped corn whiskey from fruit jars with the men. I flirted with the women. I had a ball till the caps ran out and my habit came down. That night I looked at my grandmother and split. My guts were screaming for junk, but I was almost contented. I had almost caught up with me. The next day in Memphis, I cracked a croaker's crib for a fix. This year there is a gray stone wall damming my stream, and when the falling leaves stir my jeans, I pace my cell or flop on my bunk and stare at 47 black faces across the space. I am all of them, they are all of me. I am me, they are thee, and I have no children to float in the space between. That is on the idea of ancestry by Etheridge Knight from the 1986 edition of his book, The Essential Etheridge Knight. So, I'm not sure how many minutes I've been on. I'm going to see about putting this over on Instagram.
Okay, we can end that part. We don't have to listen to the rest of that. That's just me rambling. So like I was saying, that's me reading some poetry that spoke to me about 4 years ago during the lockdown, sharing when everybody was trying not to lose their minds and no place to go. So we all took to the internet. So that was from Facebook Live. I am not a poet. I'm not a spoken word artist, but I know what I like. And so I picked some poems for National Poetry Month and read them. And I thought that I would, I hope this isn't a dirty word, recycle that and bring that over here to Black Power Medium. So, no, it's not fresh content. It's not recent, but it is relevant. I got one more set for you. This is, let's see. So, we had, who did we have? In that first set, we had, who do we have? We had Albert Noah Washington, member of the Black Liberation Army, Black Panther Party. We had Assata Shakur, member of the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army. We did a poem by Makungu Akinyela for Assata Shakur. Makungu Akinyela is an activist in Atlanta, Georgia, human rights activist, revolutionary nationalist in Atlanta, Georgia. We did Pat Parker's One Thanksgiving Day. I chuckle whenever I read that poem. And if this happened in the early 1970s, you know what kind of Lincoln Continental she was driving. That was rough. And we just ended with Etheridge Knight on the idea of ancestry. So April 1st, not only is April National Poetry Month, April 1st is the anniversary of the birth date of Gil Scot-Heron. I believe it was Brother Kalanji who did a piece on Gil Scott at the beginning of the month. April 2nd is the death date of Carolyn Rogers. A lot of people don't know Carolyn Rogers' name, but she was one of those Black arts movement poets right up there with Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni, and of course Haki Madhubuti. She actually was a co-founder of Third World Press with Haki Madhubuti and a sister by the name of Johari Amini. So we're going to do a poem. I'm going to do a poem by Carolyn Rogers, Lucille Clifton, Gil Scot-Heron, of course, and Warsan Shire. And it might be one or two in here that I forgot. So again, this is, I think I was calling it Poems of Resilience and Resistance. It's been 4 years. I don't remember. But hey, again, sharing it over here on the Black Power Media platform. So let's get into this.
But I wanted to do these real quick. So April 1st is the birth date of Gil Scot-Heron, one of the greatest spoken word artists of our time. And April 2nd is the
I just said that.
death date of Carolyn Rogers. A lot of people aren't familiar with Carolyn Rogers, but she was one of the sister architects of the Black Arts Movement, and she's a co-founder of Third World Press in Chicago with Haki Madhubuti and Johari Amini. So in honor of National Poetry Month, in praise of poetry and prose, something to do, I'm going to start with a poem by Carolyn Rogers, and I'm going to do a poem by Gil Scot-Heron. That's for you, Janae. And I also have a poem that spoke to me by Warsan Shire. Now, the Warsan Shire poem, in this time that we're living in, the time of COVID-19, coronavirus, it's important that we keep our spirits up. It's important that we maintain our mental health. It's important that we remember that we are resilient people. The Warsan Shire, one of the things that I like about her is that she talks about ugliness in such a beautiful way. You almost forget she's talking about something so ugly. So I came across her poem Home the other day, and I was like, damn, it just hit me. And so because it's talking about something so ugly in such a beautiful way, because it's talking about resilience and what people have to do, those are the kind of things that I want to focus on while we in this here lockdown. So let me stop running my mouth and let me run somebody else's mouth. So this first poem I'm going to do is by Carolyn Rogers. Now, I don't have her book of poetry. I was trying to find this poem on the internet. It might be longer than this. It's like 2 paragraphs. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to read what I have because this is a poem that spoke to me. Carolyn Rogers, and this poem is called The Last Motherfucker. They say that I should not use the word motherfucker anymore in my poetry or in any speech I give. They say that I must and can only say it to myself, as the new Black womanhood suggests, a softer self, a more reserved speaking self. They say that respect is hard won by a woman who throws a word like motherfucker around.
Wow.
And so they say, because we love you, throw that word away, Black woman. I say that I only call motherfuckers motherfucker, so no one should be insulted. And so I say, this is the last poem I will write, calling all manner of whites card-carrying motherfuckers, and all manner of blacks, Negroes too, sweet motherfuckers, crazy motherfuckers, low-down motherfuckers, cool motherfuckers, mad and revolutionary motherfuckers. But anyhow, you all know, just like I do, whether I say it or not, there's plenty of mean motherfuckers out here trying to do the struggle in. And that's Carolyn Rogers, The Last Motherfucker. Carolyn Rogers, who passed away April 2nd, 2010, one of the architects of the Black Arts Movement and co-founder of Third World Press with Haki Madabuchi. So in honor of April 1st, first day of, hey Dawn, first day of National Poetry Month, I want to give a shout out to that sister and read her poetry. Now, this one is for you, Janae, for reminding me about this. Gil Scot-Heron, I didn't realize it until today, late last night. Gil Scot-Heron's birthday is April 1st. So we got to give that brother a shout out. So I'm going to do, by request, Whitey on the Moon. A rat done bit my sister Nell, and Whitey's on the moon. And her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bill, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. You know, the man just upped my rent last night because Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilet, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me. Because Whitey's on the moon? I was already giving him $50 a week, and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that shit wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell, and Whitey's on the moon. And her face and arms began to swell, but Whitey's on the moon. Was all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon? How come I ain't got no money down here? Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills airmail special to Whitey on the moon. That's Gil Scot-Heron, April 1st. Was he? I think he was born in 1949. But if he wasn't born in 1949, he was born April 1st. I know that much. So, did those 2 poems real quick. Carolyn Rogers, The Last Motherfucker, Gil Scot-Heron, Whitey on the Moon. I've got two brief poems by um, Lucille Clifton that I want to share. And I think I'm going to end it with Warsan, Shire. Where's my Lucille Clifton poem at? And then I'm going to let y'all go on about your business. Lucille Clifton is one of those sisters who doesn't get enough play. And she doesn't get enough play by me either. My fiction reading is very, very poor. I've always concentrated on history, politics, etc. So trying to get back into reading fiction. My poetry was okay, but then I stopped. So I'm familiar with a lot of what we call the pioneers, the elders, the old school. So Warsan Shire is someone who came to me new. And then going back over again, going back and revisiting, that's when I found Lucille Clifton. So again, I'm doing this these short poems because they spoke to me and or they speak to the resiliency that Black people are going to need in this time period. Hey, Mike. Seema said, you going in like a mixtape. Yeah, okay, I hope so. So I want to do two poems real quick by Lucille Clifton. This one is called Why Some People Be Mad at Me Sometimes. They ask me to remember, but they want me to remember their memories. And I keep on remembering mine. That's it. That's the poem. That's all she said. And that's all she needed to say.
Oh, sure.
So when I tell you that struck me, I started to get that as a tattoo, but I don't like pain. So I was like, I'm not going to get no tattoo. The other poem by Lucille Clifton is called Won't You Celebrate With Me? Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I see to be except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Now, if that don't speak to the resiliency of Black people, then I don't know what does. Maybe I don't know what resiliency means. I don't know. But so again, I'm on here live, but it's going to be available later on Facebook. And I might just put this up on YouTube too. Tara Betts is doing poetry. Not that I'm like Tara Betts. I'm not in the same league with her. She's a professor, you know, and all this, that, and the other. But she got hers up on YouTube, so I might do mine too. But right now, this is for my Facebook folks who are stuck. Hey, Sam, who are stuck in the house with quarantine. And in the words of my sister Angela Jackson, this is one of the ways I decided to share with people and help break through the monotony. So this is a poem called Home by Warsan Shire, the British Somali sister, who a lot of people know her from Beyonce's Lemonade. And this poem right here, like I said, it just hit me the other day because it talks of ugliness in such a beautiful way. So because it hit me, I'm sharing it. It's called Home. No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. Your neighbors running faster than you, breath bloody in their throats. The boy you went to school with, who kissed you dizzy behind the old tin factory, is holding a gun bigger than his body. You only leave home when home won't let you stay. No one leaves home unless home chases you. Fire under feet, hot blood in your belly. It's not something you ever thought of doing until the blade burnt threats into your neck. And even then, you carried the anthem under your breath, only tearing up your passport in an airport toilet, sobbing as each mouthful of paper made it clear you wouldn't be going back. You have to understand that No one puts their children in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. No one burns their palms under trains, beneath carriages. No one spends days and nights in the stomach of a truck, feeding on newspaper, unless the miles traveled means something more than the journey. No one crawls under fences. No one wants to be beaten, pitied. No one chooses refugee camps or strip searches where your body is left aching, or prison, because prison is safer than a city of fire. And one prison guard in the night is better than a truckload of men who look like your father. No one could take it. No one could stomach it. No one's skin would be tough enough. The go home blacks, refugees, dirty immigrants, asylum seekers sucking our country dry, niggers with their hands out, they smell strange, savage, messed up their country, and now they want to mess ours up. How do the words, the dirty looks, roll off your backs? Maybe because the blow is softer than a limb torn off. Or the words are more tender than 14 men between your legs. Or the insults are easier to swallow than rubble, than bone, than your child body in pieces. I want to go home, but home is the mouth of a shark. Home is the barrel of the gun, and no one would leave home unless home chased you to the shore. Unless home told you to quicken your legs, leave your clothes behind, crawl through the desert, wade through the oceans, drown, save, be hunger, beg, forget pride. Your survival is more important. No one leaves home until home is a sweaty voice in your ear saying, leave, run away from me now. I don't know what I've become, but I know that anywhere is safer than here. That's Home by Warsan, Shire. Now, you know, I had to look up the pronunciation of her name, right? I was like, how you say that? Anyway, so those are the poems that I wanted to do tonight to kick off National Poetry Month. The poems, Jocelyn Edmonds, don't get it twisted like she got a poetic, tender heart. This one a gangster. I love you. I love you too, Jocelyn. Yeah, Warsan Shire. She ain't nothing to play with, all right? But I was saying I wanted to do some poetry to break through the monotony, to make a contribution to, you know, sharing with people during this time period. And my sister Tony Blackman said, go on and read that poetry out loud. My sister Angela Jackson said, share your gifts with folks. I said, all right, I'll do that. So I also want to do some prose that has touched me. Also, I would like to read, not right now, not tonight, but at some point, I'd like to read some Octavia Butler, some Ayikwe Armah. You know, LeVar Burton is going to be reading. I'm not LeVar Burton, but and he has permission from the authors. I ain't trying to get in trouble, but I know people like certain authors, so I'm thinking about reading other authors. Again, not necessarily tonight, but in the coming hours, days, hopefully not months, that we are locked down as part of Sharon. So this was my kickoff. April 1st, I did Gil Scot-Heron, Whitey on the Moon, because Janae has for that. April 1st is Gil Scott-Heron's birthday, and Carolyn Rogers, who the anniversary tomorrow, it will be 10 years that we lost her, April 2nd, 2010. One of the architects, one of the poets of the Black Arts Movement. She's not really, unless you're a serious student, you don't really hear about Carolyn Rogers. We hear about Sonia Sanchez and Nikki Giovanni, and we should. But Carolyn Rogers is also right up there. And she's also given credit as a founder, co-founder of Third World Press with Hakeem Madabuti. So I thank you all. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Ifa Shola. Hey, Brownwin, Irvin, Sophie.
I'm thanking a bunch of people. I don't need to be thanking all them people. I don't need to do all that right now. So yeah, that was in case you tuned in late, that was not recent, but it was relevant. I was digging around in the archives looking for some show ideas to share because I'm not a content creator. I reject that label. And I said, okay, April is Poetry Month. Kalanji just did a show on Gil Scott-Heron, and Gil Scott-Heron deserves his own show. He deserves all the flowers. All of these poets, all of these spoken word artists, all of these griots, all of these healers, these priests and priestesses of the word deserve their own shows. So that's a show idea that someone should do. Sound like a lot of work. I don't know if it's going to be me. Point being, this was me reading poetry about 4 years ago during the lockdown 2020, COVID, when we first got locked down here for COVID here in the U.S. It's not recent, but it is relevant. Again, so I was looking around for something to share here on Rootwork. I'm not turning Rootwork into a spoken word show. Still going to do interviews and analysis when and where I can as soon as possible. But I wanted to do this. Um, I wanted to share these words, these poets, and these poems just to change up the energy just a little bit. You know, we talk about Black Power so much. We talk about the Black Power movement. We call ourselves Black Power Media. There was an artistic, a deliberate, intentional, artistic component to the Black Power movement, the late 60s and early 70s. An arm, a cultural arm known as the Black Arts Movement. Of course, Amiri Baraka, Larry Neal, Askia Toure, Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni, Carolyn Rogers, the poet, I believe her name is pronounced AI. I finally saw a book cover of one of her books a couple of days ago over on Instagram. Social media it can be good for some things. So if you're not familiar with Etheridge Knight, if you're not familiar with any of the folks that I have read, please look them up on your own. But then again, this is the BPM crew. Y'all are pretty on it, pretty much up on stuff. Pretty you on it. So, but again, not enough, uh, in my opinion, attention is paid to that artistic movement. Not only then, but now we have artists right now today. Um, I don't have. I'm not sure what I have of his, but I know for those who watch Black Power movement, I believe Skip Coon. I want to say he's on Diallo's show a lot. Hopefully, I'm not getting that wrong. But I knew of Skip Coon because he was hip hop artist. That's where I first heard about him a few years ago. So it's a lot of folks out here who are doing contemporary work, not just like me regurgitating our classics, our traditions from the 60s and 70s. That needs to be done too, but we need to also pay attention to the artists of right now today. So, again, this was a little contribution that I made 4 years ago, and I was hoping to bring it over here to the Black Power movement. So, for those of y'all who are here, this is not going to be a long, drawn out show, but for those of y'all who are here, hit me in the comments section. Should we do the poetry plagiarism hour with Tanda Sizwe Shimaringa? Story time with Tanda Sizwe Shimaringa? I never got around to reading Octavia Butler over on Facebook Live. This was before, obviously, I came onto YouTube. I did read from Ayikwe Arma's 2000 Seasons. I didn't finish it. Yeah, it was a lot going on. 2000 Seasons is a masterpiece of literature. If you have never read that, you need to read that. It's so much good literature out there. And if you saw from the beginning, I was talking about how my diet of fiction is very, very poor. I've always been a nonfiction person, reading politics and history, political science. But I've been trying these last few years to get back into that. So much beauty, so much history, so much knowledge. So many of our traditions are contained in our fiction and in our poetry. Dang, you missed it. You ain't missed nothing, bruh. All you got to do is hit the play button after I end it. You all good. You'll be all right. So yeah, hit me up. Let me know if you wanna. Well, then again, maybe I should just do it. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. Everybody else just hit the play button and start rambling. Maybe I'll just ramble with a poem or a reading, in addition to the analysis and interviews of Rootwork. But that's all I have to say today. I had not planned on this being long and drawn out. It's a Sunday. Y'all should be enjoying the rest of the Lord's Day, chilling out, taking it easy, getting ready for tomorrow. But of course, don't forget that the ear doctor is going to be on in a couple of hours to give you some more peace and rhythms to start your week off. But that's all. Again, press the play button, hit that like button for me. Sharing poems of resilience and resistance that I did 4 years ago. Not my own poems. I'm not a spoken word artist. I am not a poet, and I know it. I was simply reading and sharing to break through the monotony and the despair of when the lockdown first started on Facebook. There's a lot of monotony and despair right now with this genocide going on in Palestine. So we need that type of intervention. That's why I thought I would bring it over here to Black Power Media. All right, y'all. I'm about to get up out of here. Hopefully, I will see you again this coming week. If not this week, it'll be next week. You take care of yourselves. You stay safe. Please like, share, subscribe, tell somebody about Black Power Media. All right? Pretty please. And I'm out. Peace.